So just to run through the sort of the basics of images on a website, the first thing that you have to watch out for, and we were having a quick conversation before, Chris was mentioning large images on the website that don't need to be large. He had an example of something that showed very small on the page, but was actually 50 and some megabytes. It's very common, although that large size is pretty uncommon. So the first thing is to take the image down to the size that it's going to look nice on the website, right? Like you don't need a poster size to show a small icon of somebody's face.
Right.
So you take that large image and you reduce it down until it's nice and comfortable, right? If you go too small, it's going to get blurry. It's going to get have some blocks in it maybe, and it's not going to look good. So it's unfortunately kind of a manual process with that, but it's not too bad, and it only needs to be done once. So you reduce the resolution or the size of that image, the visual size of that image, until it fits on the page. That will get you most of the image savings, and then you can remove the metadata. So typically, every image that you take with your phone or a DSLR or basically anything has additional data like the GPS coordinates, like the time, the dates, the shutter speed, and all that sort of stuff. And when you're doing it for the web, that stuff adds up. That can sometimes double. So that one's fairly easy as well. There are a lot of tools that will just strip off the metadata, and it's a one click. And then the last thing you can do with images is you can choose the right compression. So Google is pushing for a new image format that they call WebP. It looks better at smaller image sizes, and it is now widely supported. So Google, on their page speed results, will actually show you that you can save that this much size in the image if you do it in a what they call a next generation format. But that's a little technical in terms of this, but the real thing I'm getting to here is that some images are better in JPEG, some are better in PNG, some are better in GIF, some are better in WebP, and you can really just sort of do it visually as well. You can there are some tools where you can press a button and it will show you all four, and it'll say which one's better for the size. So once you size it to the proper size, it's going to be on the page, and then you take off the metadata, and then you choose your compression. You can typically get a really nice looking image at about 50 kilobytes or less, and 50 kilobytes or less is really nice for mobile and desktop as well. We start with an image. Let's say we take it on our phone. That has a specific resolution that matches the size of our camera, right? The resolution of our camera. Let's call that 5 megabytes. And so now what you want to do is you want to take that and eventually end up on a website, and you can theoretically just take that original image, put it on the website, and say display at 1/4 the size. What's happening on the backside is that it's actually still using that original full image, and it's just pretending to shrink it. It's almost as though if you're standing there and looking at a picture and you say, like, can you reduce it in size, and someone walks away from you until it's the right size. It doesn't save you any space to actually display it smaller if you're still using that large image in the backside. The unfortunate answer to that, well, I don't know. The unfortunate answer to that is that it kind of depends on the use. This is the part of it. Like, you can get away with simply choosing something like 800 by 600 is the resolution, or 1024 by 768. These are classic old resolutions from when we had small monitors, and people are pretty forgiving if they're viewing a website on a very large, like very expensive monitor. They're not really expecting it to be as crisp, unless you're on a photography site, of course. But the sort of the best answer, the most comprehensive, or the nicest result answer, is to look at what are your goals for the site. Like, you want it to look out on desktop, but does your theme, does your template, is it really designed to be looked at on a large, expansive monitor? Or is it really designed to look good on a mobile device? And who are your visitors? Like, are they mainly mobile? Are they mainly desktop? What do they do it on? Typically, people sort of like reasonably sized monitors as well as iPhones, just because they're, it's such a nice demographic of people. Spending money. And so you can look at it on both those devices, and you can choose, like, oh, okay, so this specific resolution looks really nice in this spot on the phone, and that does you. It does, and that's where I really advocate for the sort of starting with what you want your theme to be, and then asking the questions of your images as you go through. Like, I was auditing a clothing brand a week or so ago, and they had a very large, what we call hero image. So you land on the website, almost all of this gorgeous photography in the background, and if that's fuzzy, if that's out of focus, that's right. You're not putting your best foot forward.
Okay.
So if you say, okay, well, I want this image to be here, if I want it to be in the footer, or if I want it to be full width across the entire page, or I want it to be in a row of other images, what's the right resolution for those kinds of things in this theme?
Yeah.
And once you sort of figure out the right resolution for that theme for that usage or for that area, then then it's part of your business documents, right? It's like, oh, you want it to be this resolution, this by this, and 96 DPI or whatever you want. And there are some really nice tools, in the 2020s here, there's some really nice tools where you can actually start with and store that very large image, and then you can, when you're uploading your site or when you're press a button and it will do all the rest of the work for you. It'll reduce it to the right resolutions, it will embed it in the right spot, and it will take the metadata off. I honestly think that it's important to start with the best quality that you can. But really, if you're looking at scale, what you really want to look at is what are my value pages, and then hand tune those ones, and sort of like blast out with the tools all the rest of them. Because if somebody only lands on one of your pages once every 6 months, and then you can look at your analytics and you can say, oh, they landed on this page and then they immediately went to the front page and they clicked and then they contacted us that way, then does it really matter if that image is a little bit blurry or if it's not quite right? Like, probably not. It's probably not our investment in a sense. Yeah, it's really about like ranking well on Google. Their compass point north is always user experience. Does the user get what they expect when they visit your website? Mm. So creating quality content is good for that. Making sure that your tech is good for that. Your page speed and all that sort of stuff. As well, and you kind of touched on it, is sort of the accessibility stuff, like labeling the images so that when someone gets the search result, oh, they know that there's those types of images on there.